Get some! Hey! Bonsai! 200 yards. Well, did he get lucky or what?
He did 8 rounds on 4 targets in 1.06. The 6 shots, a reload, and 6 shots in 2.99 seconds.
Yeah, bye. Hi, I'm Jerry Michalak. I've been a professional shooter for over 35 years. Also a member of the Smith & Wesson professional shooting team for over 25 years. I have over 100 national and world titles. So what we're going to do in this segment is give you some insights on how to shoot a pistol. A lot of the things we do in competition carries right over to what you want to do in self-defense shooting. So when we go out to the range with the M&P pistol, I'm also going to give you the value of over 3 million rounds of training time and over 40 years of practice. So when we go out to the range, I'll give you some ideas how to hold, how to execute vision techniques. So let's go out to the range. Okay, we're out on the pistol range, and one thing you want to remember, if you want a performance that you can repeat, you have to use just the minimum it takes to make it happen. If you got to do a whole bunch of stuff, move your head, shrug your shoulders, hunch down, bend your knees, obviously you're not going to be able to do all that and try to remember it and have a good target. So what I'm doing as a professional is taking out everything that doesn't add to the performance. So I'm just going to give you an idea. I'm going to go ahead and shoot a build drill from the holster. Just give you an idea about technique. You always want to bring whatever you have in your hand to your dominant eye and not you to it. So give you an idea what that looks like. I'll go ahead and shoot 6 rounds on that center target. If you notice my face, I'm not going to have to do anything except to bring the pistol up to my face and make it happen. You notice I didn't have to squat, blink, shrug my shoulders, or duck my head, or turtle. Just bring whatever you have in your holster up to your dominant eye and make it happen. That was 6 rounds on target in the 1/75 of a second. So if you go back and look at that first shot, was relatively slow, a 103, we had a 19, a 10 split, oh, I like that. We had a 15, a 15, and a 13. So actually the on target time from the first shot was a 103, and the last shot was a 175. So that was 72 of a second to fire 6 rounds of 9mm on that target there with an M&P pistol. And you notice I didn't have to do a whole lot to make it happen. And that's what's going to be important to you as you progress as a competitor. You don't have to do a whole lot to make it happen. I'm just taking away everything that doesn't contribute, and what you saw right there was pretty easy to do. So didn't have to really strain. Just keep the platform, whatever you have, a revolver, pistol, bring it to your dominant eye and make it happen. So I shot what I call a basic isosceles stance. I'm pretty much square to the target. What I'm trying to do is keep my face flat. I want to see as much as I can all the time. If I have to look to the top of my glasses, odds are I'm not going to see well. So I want my face flat. I want to see as much as I can of left to right. And that's something else you want to think about with your stance, is how to stand correctly. I'm standing square. So if I want to transition hard to the right, I can do that. If I want to transition hard to the left, I can do that without moving my feet. So I can shoot pretty much from here all the way back to there. I've just got a very narrow window behind me that I can't address without moving my feet. So if I was going to shoot a Weaver stance, which we all did back in the day when we didn't know anything, pretty much you have to blade into the target. You push him with this hand and you pull him with this hand. What they were trying to do back in the day was to get more control over the handgun, and they went at it the wrong way. And the thing about opposing forces, it sounds really good until you screw it up. So if you have a little bit less technique right here, pushing and pulling, you get weird oscillations on the front sight, and it's not repeatable. If it's not repeatable, it's not competition worthy, and it's just not worthy of your time. So we got rid of that a long time ago. If you really watch the true professionals of the game, they're going to stand with the isosceles stance, and if you do anything less, you're going to be behind the curve, and it's not even worth training for. Bad thing about the Weaver stance is, on a right-handed guy, I have to bring my head down to see the sight. And you see the way I'm looking at you right now? It's not natural. So why would I want to shoot in a stance that is not natural? This is pretty much natural. I'm standing there, produce the sidearm, bring it to the target, make the shot. Really simple, guys. Keep things simple. If you get caught with your pants down in a self-defense situation, this is how you're going to stand. You're not going to stand like this and look at something. Odds are if you're going to go try to do a weaver and you're right-handed, you're going to always miss to the left. So, and a left-handed guy is going to always miss to the right. This way, even when I'm totally stupid, I can still make a line shot. Might not be the best shot, but it's going to be in line with the target, and something good is going to happen with that bullet. So anyway, that's where I am as a professional. So let's go ahead and shoot a multiple target drill, give you some idea on some transitions. There again, you want your face flat to the targets. What we're trying to do here, guys, is just pivot on your knees. Just keep it simple. Just keep it simple. There again, no big deal. You're shooting flat to the targets. That was a 188 for the whole experience there. Try to keep your splits about the same. We're doing about a 1600 split coming right across. If you try to shoot a weaver and to do that, what happens as you shoot a weaver, you have a tendency to lean and your muzzle will not progress parallel to the horizon, so you'll have a rainbow effect. So as you come across, you have to come up for each target. It just burns the clock. So the square you can stand to the targets is always the best. So that's where I'm at today, guys, right there, isosceles stance. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and shoot a weaver stance here. I'm set up on the first target. You notice how much I have to blade into the first target. The hard thing for me to do this correctly is when I'm going from target to target, shifting my center of mass is very hard because my leg is so far behind me, it's not a natural transition. I'm gonna see if I can do this. I haven't done this in so long, and I really hate to train negative, but I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can give you a run with the weaver stance here. Let's see if we can do it. I got caught up on that second target. Coming across. What happens when you work this kind of stance, you have a tendency just to bring your shoulders and not your body with you. So I overswung that second target. It's just hard to do, guys. There's nothing natural about it. So you can see the time was a 2:29, but what we're trying to do in competition, you get one shot at it, so you have to have your best technique possible. That right there doesn't let me stay fluid with the center of mass of where I am in relationship to the target. So the transitions are just that, they're kind of inconsistent. So that second target was really hard to stop. I was leaning instead of driving on my knees, and that's what you get. So anyway, train smart and shoot even better, guys. That's the only way to shoot in competitions is a isosceles stance. One thing you want to remember, whenever you're firing a handgun, if you can get two hands on it, it's going to always be better. So you want to try to use as much of both hands as you possibly can. I don't want to do this, the old cup and saucer thing. And I'll just give you a quick demo on how this thing does not work. If you watch the end of the muzzle here, when I'm trying to shoot, the front of that pistol is arcing way high to the left. I'm getting absolutely nothing out of this hand. So another technique you see on the movies that you see a lot of guys doing is something like this, where they grab their wrist right here. And this is, you can see also the muzzle movement there. It doesn't contribute anything to the control of the end of that muzzle. And this is what you're trying to do, is when you break a shot, especially in competition or a self-defense situation where time is limited, when you have a lot of time and you're really not pushed to make a shot, just about anything will work and hit a target. But when times get small and the stress goes up, you want to work as smart as you can and use as much of both hands as possible. Another thing you want to consider, guys, is when you're shooting a pistol, you want to grab it as high as you can. You notice where I'm at on that pistol. I'm going to try to get it as low as I can. If I could fire it right here, it's going to recoil straight back. Anything less than that, the gun is working against me. And this is just how it's built, so I cannot go any higher than this. So I'm really torquing my hand into that top strap here, the top of that web. pushing on the top of the frame. And with my support hand, I'm trying to roll it over center. Thumbs basically point to, your thumbs are basically going to point toward the target. I'm not doing anything with these thumbs, they're just out of the way. I'm not driving anything with it. I'm gonna lock the wrist over center. The idea is, the more it's locked over center, the easier it is to keep it on target. Less muscle tension I have to control the end of that pistol. What you want to realize, when this thing oscillates, that little bit of oscillation on that target, right here, I'm in the center of the target, now I'm over the target, and just that little bit of motion. So, if you can't control the whip on the end of that pistol or revolver, that's the kind of dispersion you're going to have on the target. So what's very important is that you lock your wrist, and that when you fire a shot, it's going to return right back to where it was when before you fired it, and in the same relationship with the sight to the center of the target. Very important. So I'm going to work as hard as I can to keep it that way. If you watch the end of my muzzle here, I'm just not going to let it jump. I'm going to lock my wrist over center and just put a couple right in the middle. See how that went? I'm not going to let it jump. Another thing you want to realize on these lightweight guns like this, if you want to put your finger in front of the trigger guard, take some of that high speed oscillation out of what you're seeing on the sights. You might want to grasp it. I got a little skateboard tape here in the front. I lock my finger in there. Do the same thing again, guys. Here we go. Watch the target. Let's see what I got left. Got a couple of rounds left. Let's do that again. Target in the middle. Oop, got a little jumpy. All right, here we go. Target in the middle. What I'm looking for is this thing to repeat with the least amount of work and the most consistency. So there you have it, guys. Different way to skin the cat. Targets tell the tale. Okay, we just got back from the range. I'm gonna go over some points here, points of interest. What you want to realize, guys, I've got my trusty blue gun here, so I'm gonna aim at the camera and give you an idea what my stance is going to be. I'm pretty much square as I can get to the camera, and that's what I want to do. I want my face erect. I want it flat. I want to try to avoid looking through the top of my glasses and doing this. Anytime I'm doing this, I'm putting up a lot of stress that I really don't need. And the big problem with that is when I start doing target transitions, it just gets in the way. So I want to stand there as natural as I can, bring this platform up to my dominant eye, and that's how I want to shoot. We talked about holding the pistol. On the high-speed footage, it's going to be very apparent the different oscillations on the end of that muzzle, guys. And this is what's going to be important as you shoot faster. Anything works when you have a lot of time, and speed is not the issue. But as speed increases and target difficulty increases, distance and size, it's going to be very, very important that this platform returns right back to the same it was before the shot was fired. So I'm not going to accept any segmented recoil. And what I mean by segmented recoil, if it shoots like this and I have to bring it back into the target every shot, this left hand is not doing anything, that's a loser. You got to work that sharper, guys. This hand here probably going to do more than what you ever thought it was going to do. If you go out to the range and shoot 200 rounds, that left hand better be very, very tired. So if it's not tired, you're not using it well, and this is what your muzzle is going to look like. So keep that in mind. I don't want to have a segmented recoil anytime I fire. Another thing I don't want to accept ever is see the gun jump to any degree. If it's in the air, it's not on target, and you're losing time. And if time is of the essence, if you're competing, if your muzzle's in the air and it's not on target, I'm not shooting. So, and I'm losing. So I have to have this thing as fast as I can, get back into whatever target zone I'm engaging at the time as rapidly as I can if I want to be a winner. So that's a basic isosceles. Lock your wrist, bring it right under your dominant eye. Try to look through the center of your glasses as much as you can. Also on your trigger, guys, just whatever it takes to fire the shot. If you've got a good $300 trigger job and it weighs 2 pounds, well, hit it with 2.5 pounds of energy and not 7. So that's something else you're going to have to learn as you progress, is how much trigger it takes to actually fire the platform you have in your hand at any one time. Let me step over here and grab another firearm here. This is a little bit smaller pistol. It's an M&P Shield. So what I might want to do here is change my technique a little bit. We've got an empty chamber. Carry guns are a little bit different. There's not much here to hold on to, so you might want to do something different with your thumb. This one is still large enough to where I can actually grab it pretty good and shoot it. Good platform, 9mm, a lot of horsepower, and it's big enough to where you can control it, but yet it's small enough to where you can conceal it. So this pretty much has the same grip angle as the M&P full size, so that's a good thing. So when you get into a Glock product like this, polymer frame pistol, it's got a different grip angle. So what you find yourself having to do is break your wrist more over center to get it into the target zone. If you hold it like a standard 1911, it's going to want to shoot into the sky. So another thing you want to think about, and we kind of discussed it a little bit when we were on the range, finger in front of the trigger guard. This works pretty good. If I have a light gun like an M&P or a Glock or any polymer frame pistol, a lot of times I'll put my finger up on the front of the trigger guard to give it a little bit more stability. Because what I see when I shoot these platforms, I see some high-speed oscillations left and right, and that's because I can't get far enough in front here to actually stop that. So I put my finger in front of the trigger guard and I hook it a little bit, and I'm pulling it and pushing it at the same time, and it gives it a little bit more torque, and it takes that high-speed oscillation out of the front sight. To me, it's more relaxing. I get a little bit more control that way. So that's just where you are as a shooter. If your hands are big enough, you can do that. It's not going to work unless you enhance the front of the trigger guard with some skateboard tape or stepling. And some divisions in competition, it's not legal to put that. So you have to be aware of, if you're going to shoot production or the different divisions in USPSA, IPSC, it might not be legal to enhance that gripping area. So, but in the open division 3-gun, you can do whatever you want. So that's what I do there. 1911s also. This Smith & Wesson 1911 is pretty much a standard frame size 1911. What I want to do there, pretty much when I disengage the safety, my hand is big enough to where I can ride my thumb up on the top of the safety a little bit. I'm not really pushing with it. I don't want to impart any thumb pressure on the side of the slide. So it's just on top of the safety. I'm aware that it's there. Basically what I'm trying to do is, if I need to put it on safe real quick, I have a reference point to do that. So if I'm running and I'm not shooting, I might want to flip it on, get my always finger on the trigger guard. So I'm just aware of where this thumb is when it rests on the top. The big idea about your thumbs, guys, I try not to drive with them. What you see more and more, or people are actually putting a shoe or a pad to where they can use their thumb on their weak hand to control recoil. And that's starting to work out pretty good. So that's something, but the gun has to be enhanced for that platform to work. It actually has an extension where you can rest your thumb on it and drive. And that's not a bad idea. A lot of guys are shooting really well with that setup. So there's nothing right or wrong. It's just winning and losing, guys. So if you want to enhance your pistols and try to make them more competitive and more repetitive to what you are as a shooter, go ahead and feel free to do it. Like I said, there's guys who've won major championships with fingers in front of trigger guards, and there's guys who've won major championships with fingers under the trigger guard. So that's kind of a personal thing. It also has a lot to do with the size of your hand and the platform or the firearm you have in your hand at that time. So something to consider. I'll look at a revolver again right quick. This is the 929 revolver. We've done a segment on revolver shooting before. So if you want to look it up on our website, feel free to do it. So there again, it's kind of the assets of a revolver are the fact that you can grab it up even higher. I grab it up to where it's just going to function. What I'm trying to do is get it down low in my hands again, and this is actually lower than a pistol. Center line of the bore, pretty much as flat as I can get it. It recoils and comes back into target very, very quick. What you always want to remember when you're shooting a pistol of any kind is always grab it as high as you possibly can. Always. This means a lot to the control of what you're trying to get out of the gun. What you want to remember is just a little bit of muzzle flip. This right here, if I'm trying to shoot rapid fire and you let it flip that high, it has to come back through the target zone again. You've given it a lot of motion. I call it noodling. where the front of the gun is noodling like this, and your shot dispersions on the target are going to look really poor. So try to work as smart as you can, get it as low in your hand as possible, grasp it the best you can with both hands, and always use the minimum amount of trigger pull to get the job done. As we talked about learning how to lock your wrist, we're going to go to the high-speed footage. It's going to be very apparent from the way that the muzzle recovers from shot to shot with the wrist lock versus without. So let's take a look at the high-speed footage with the wrist lock to give you an idea how consistently the muzzle returns the target. The next high-speed footage we're going to look at, I'm going to shoot with pretty much an unlocked wrist. I'm going to hold the pistol tight, but the wrist is not going to lock, and you're going to see from the end of the muzzle how much recoil it has up and down. But the big thing I want you to pay attention for is how much it actually dips below the target, then comes back into the target zone. That oscillation right there adds a tremendous spread of point of aim, point of impact to the target zone. As you can see, when you learn to lock your wrist correctly, it's going to return right back to where it was before you fired the shot. It's going to take minimum amount of input from you, but you're going to get maximum performance from the end of this muzzle to the target. Another point of interest, guys, with small semi-automatic handguns, when we do a lot of concealed carry classes, I see people on the range and they get in trouble really quick. And what they're doing, I've got the M&P shield again, we're empty. I'm going to point it away this way. Give you an idea what I'm doing here. If you watch my thumb, if I'm trying to shoot it like this, guess what's going to happen? As soon as I fire that first shot, the slide's going to reciprocate and it's going to cut my thumb really bad. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but a really bad thing is if I hit this slide hard enough to cause it to malfunction, there I am with a jammed pistol and a bleeding thumb and I haven't done a thing right. So if you're going to use your thumb behind the slide, and I've seen it done to good effect, you're going to have to practice this a lot. If you want to grasp it like this, you're going to have to learn to grasp it down really low. Do I advise you to do that? Not necessarily. If you can practice it and make it repetitive, and it works great for you, you can do it. It's something I really don't recommend. Smaller hands on big guns, sometimes it's the way to do it. Be very careful if you try to have a technique like that and rely on it. It's really easy to get your hand in the wrong spot, and then you induce a stoppage. And you can also cut your hand really, really deep. I've seen some pretty good gouges on concealed carry classes. So just be aware, if you try to put this thumb on your strong hand, be very, very sure of your technique and practice it a lot, because like any technique, it's gonna be very much dependent on how much you practice and how much time you're gonna put into it. So you might ought to consider not putting the thumb there at all. But anyway, something to think about when you train, guys. When you go out to the range, you have to have spotless training, because that's how you're going to do when you react in a situation, be it self-defense or competition. You're going to revert right back to your training. So if you put minimum training into your handguns, you're going to get minimum response out of it on the range. So be safe on the range and train correctly. Okay, guys, there you have it. A lot of things look very simple, and they are very simple. Don't try to overwork yourself. Do a Weaver, do the tactical turtle, and all that kind of nonsense is really not going to make you anything better than what you are already. So don't hesitate to try new things. What we try to do in competitions is streamline and take out everything that doesn't contribute to the performance. And as you can see in the video, when I'm shooting well, I'm not in a big strain. My head is erect, guns in the center of my vision. Vision technique is going to be paramount, body mechanics, and one thing you want to always remember when you're shooting a handgun, trigger pull is always going to be more important than sight alignment. So there you have it, guys. It's that simple and it's that hard. What you want to remember is always be safe on the range and have fun.